Hey, look at us, coming later than I normally would. In fact, the time I finish most streams is the time I'm starting this one. But it's Friday night, party night, I always go late. We'll see. Hello, Meg Leach. Good to see you. Yum. Okay. Ooh. Yeah, I've been out having very nice cocktails and very nice food with Mrs. Angry. And we'll see how long I last, because I took a break of, I don't know, about an hour and a half with not drinking any alcohol. And now I'm starting again. Sorry, making me look like a lightweight. I haven't done that in ages. Inhaled just as I was swallowing. Wow, rookie mistake. God damn. Oh no, my internet's fudging out. All right. Sometimes it does this near the start of the stream and then it comes back and then we don't have any problems. And it's back now. So maybe we don't have any problems. I guess we shall see. Oh, and after that abortive thing, a taste of my Sazerac. Hey, Heine, how's it going? More than an absinthe rinse in that one. But then again, I like absinthe, so that's fine. Very tasty. Sorry, I'm not. Am I? Maybe I am normally this vague. I was about to say, I'm not normally this vague right at the start of a stream. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm fooling myself into thinking that I'm not. But I also haven't usually been out drinking before a stream. So this is like, holy shit, like, was it 10 o'clock? Like, so on a normal Friday night, this would be 2 hours into a stream. And I probably had as much to drink in the lead up to this point as I would have if I had been on the stream. So it's like I'm not at the start of a stream physiology wise. I'm 2 hours in already. Yikes. But yeah, went out early with Mrs. Angry. Nice drinkies and food. Then came home. Then chilled out for a bit. Watched the first episode of the new season of His Dark Materials, aka the atheist version of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Heine, I guess it would be a bit of time for Laura. I did see her posting on Twitter. I think she's got quite a busy day, actually. She had some stuff with some friends and whatnot. So she might not be able to join us. We might get lucky. Who knows? Who knows who will join us on this Festivus evening? Now, just because I'm bored, I was going to look up the rules of Festivus. What are the elements of Festivus? Festivus for the rest of us. For those who are never subjected to Seinfeld back in the 90s, you might not know it. It's an anti-Christmas, basically. Apparently inspired by the real experiences of one of the writers on the show. So, at Festivus dinner, you gather your family around and tell them all the ways they've disappointed you over the past year, known as the airing of grievances. Heine being cracked onto by a meth head. Well, variety's the spice of life, mate. Then we have feats of strength, which are physical competitions meant to crown the strongest in the group. And of course, you're meant to have a Festivus pole, an aluminium pole with no decorations. So Festivus was invented by Seinfeld writer Dan O'Keefe's father when Dan was 8 years old. And it had the airing of grievances and feats of strength. So there you go. What you doing down there, Mimsy? Gonna come up here? Yes, no, maybe? I don't know. Can you repeat the question? Come on, come up here. Come up here. There she is. Come to say hello. Quite early. Well, I suppose 10 o'clock's not early. You were probably wondering where we were. We went out for a couple of hours. Left you on your own. Very harsh, wasn't it? Not at all acceptable. No. Silly bloody cat. Your breath smells like cat food. So, yes, Festivus. That's about all I've got for tonight. What do we got? See if anything in an IS. What do we got? Emails from Archie Rose, Triple J, movie one out, The Banshees of Inisherin. Oh, that's going to be any good. Oh, yes, we're supposedly getting a heat wave in a week or so. Samuel L. Jackson went on a public porn liking spree. I mean, you have my attention. Twitter was set ablaze after Samuel Jackson, who recently turned 74, started showing his appreciation for people being plowed by massive dicks. Anyone who tapped on the like section of Jackson's Twitter profile would have been with a rude surprise indeed. I'm not sure if fans of Snakes on a Plane were ready to see so many motherfucking snakes. If you're really curious to see what Samuel Jackson liked on Twitter, just imagine stereotypical Pound Town action. You've basically seen it all. He's gone and unliked all the horny videos, so you won't be able to see them through his profile anymore. Some folks managed to screen grab all the vids he liked. And again, it's just porn. Let the man like what he likes. It's his birthday, apparently. There you go. Samuel Jackson apparently didn't know your likes are public. Oh no, Megalich aircon not fixing. Hey, a bum fungus. The internet is for porn. It was ever thus. Wow. Well, okay. I like seeing news headlines occasionally that aren't, what do you call it? Super depressing. Sam Jackson liking a bunch of common or garden variety porn is it's the sort of relaxing news I can get behind, quite honestly. Do you remember when I found out that at least the first time I found out at least some of the porn sites have a thing for, instantly putting likes to Twitter, etc. And I was like, no, thank you. No one needs to know that. No, sir. Oh, goodness me. So Zelensky's being a bit of a star in America. Trump's been found to be the central cause of the US Capitol riots. Holy fuck, it will be fucking hilarious if Trump actually has to face criminal charges, because he's guilty. He's guilty as fuck. Oh, what is going on in America, and what is going to happen in America? Stock market crashing, man. What are we doing? Still, God fucking damn it. Meghan Markle news, I hate that so much. Ugh, I just hate the way the media does the Harry and Meghan shit. Fuck them. What are you doing, funny cat? Was I not patting you? It's a whole thing. Hi, Liam. Thank you. I am fairly well. I hope you are well too. Oh, right. Yeah, you put that UFO post on Reddit. 3,400 views. Nice. But some of the posts were deleted by the moderator bot. Damn. You have your Des. You're going to have to explain what that is. I don't know what that is. But you can explain that in 15 minutes or so. Hooly dooly. Woman exposes cheating boyfriend thanks to almost invisible bathroom detail. In a long-distance relationship, she uncovered infidelity. Another woman's curly hair in her shower. Wow. Well, this is trash. Okay. I mean, I should have known it was trash, but it really was. Oh, doing okay watching Carols in the Domain. Yeah, good for you. What are we doing? Both for D's nuts? Yeah, I don't know. Trashy shit. Sorry, I thought my internet was going on again. Major cake shop owner settles, pays 10 million. Oh, right. That's a franchise. Bullshit. Yes, it's remarkable how often franchises are a fucking scam. Huh. Well, looking for something interesting in the news. Honestly, Sam Jackson's porn likes was the most interesting. All right, so COVID's now completely fucking out of control in China. Awesome. The rest of us are coming in. Michelin Guide inspectors top mocktails. Oh, fuck off. Actually, I shouldn't be so harsh. It's good for people who don't want to drink alcohol to have an option. Thank you, Liam. Mimsy, you're appreciated. She is very old and honestly very sick. He's strictly Sega. All right, so what were the top mocktails? A green michelada, non-alcoholic beer, chili spiked green juice. Sour Wilbur, pomegranate juice, black walnut, orange peel garnish. They're not giving you the actual recipe though. Lies, non-alcoholic spice cane spirit, passion fruit, pineapple, non-alcoholic aperitivo, and lime. Bandiva, mojito. Shisho infused simple syrup. A garden reviver with ginger, green chili soda water, jasmine tea, fresh mint. I don't like chili. Commedia al pomodoro. Tomato water, blood orange soda over ice. That could be interesting. But it's kind of useless if you don't actually give recipes. Right, so the Banshees of Inisherin is getting hyped a bit. Oh well, I'm with the fucking rapid increase in COVID cases. I'm not going to a cinema to be in a closed space with recirculated air or things. Ah, there you go, Liam. Well, there you go. I'm glad you got to see Mimsy. And she's fallen asleep. Yeah, Ginger, you just came to hang out with me and fall asleep. She's going to have to wait patiently because I'll probably go and sleep on the lounge if I stay up really late so as to not disturb Mrs. Angry. And then she likes to sleep on me while I am sleeping on the lounge. Friday night, yes. Line up some movies, watching the lads. Nice. Ah, fucking watch party, yeah. Nice plan. Nice plan. I like it. Trying to think what I want to do. Maybe. I was going to wait for Megalich to come back and he was going to try the cocktail I sent him, and I still have some of that in my fridge, so I might have one with him. Strictly saying, do I have much on this weekend? Keeping it pretty low key. I'm going to a different cocktail bar tomorrow night. Tonight's was quite spontaneous. Wasn't really planning on doing it tonight, but it was this thought like, oh wait, everyone's going to be out of the house, and I had a semi plan to be out of the house too, and then be leaving Mrs. Angry on her own. I said, well, that's not right. I shouldn't do that. If no one else is going to be here, we should go out. And so we went to a bar up the ways, and it was a fine time. We've planned tomorrow nights for a while. A different bar in a very different area. In fact, several suburbs away from the one we're at tonight. It's a common thread with places I go to out in the suburbs. They're next to public transport. I'll share some pictures, Strictly Sega, actually, because I put them on my Discord. I'll bring them up and share them. Where are we? Nice. Okay, so I'll share this one first. So, share my screen. It was easy. Aidsy wants to join for a while. Okay, so this one. Okay, so no, that was wrong. Remove. Try again. This. Okay. So that's food we had. That's actually a baked camembert and bread, and the drinks there. Hello, Dr. Abigail and Safa. There's a Sazerac and a house special called lemon meringue, and the top is actually meringue, which they torched with a little blowtorch, and then you could drink the lemony drink through that. Very, very good. So, I mean, it wasn't super cheap. Wasn't super expensive though, as these things go. So, actually, while I'm doing this, I should invite Aidsy, because he says he wants to join. We'll see how long it takes him. Okay, so sharing the screen. Okay, so this is a close-up of the meringue one. So you can see it's actually like toasted meringue on the top. Real fucking yum. And I'll also share a close-up of the Sazerac, just because it's in a really nice glass. It looks very stylish, and it was a very nice Sazerac actually. It's very yum. Good job, that man. And I'll show you this. After that, And after we had things to eat, and after that round of drinks, the next round of drinks was dessert. So that's a chocolate martini. That was super chocolatey. The one at the top is the chocolate martini with a strawberry garnish, and then the other one was called liquid cheesecake, a little shortbread garnish. Both super yum, actually. So good night all around. Oh yeah, Mimsy's changed pose. She's been moving around a bit tonight. She's sleeping though, just sleeping. Funny cat. It wasn't packed. There was a couple of people there. Oh yeah, no. Garnishing was done well. It was interesting because the Sazerac was not on their featured menu. Like they go, here's all the ones they're trying to show off, and then there's things saying, oh, and we do all the classics too. Just ask. But there was also, you can get those the advanced barcodes. Brain just stopped working about what we actually call them. Scan it in, and you see more. And it was basically their suggested classics. And there was a Sazerac on it. And I thought, oh, that sounds good. I haven't had a Sazerac for a while. And ordered a Sazerac. It was fucking great. And yeah, as we were leaving, the bartender actually said, oh, how did you like the Sazerac? Because I think people must not order it very often. And yeah, so I suitably praised it because it was real fucking good. Okay. He says he's cleaning the Fanta off his keyboard, then he'll join. Safa, you might have missed me say it. I actually had 4 cocktails there over a couple of hours. And then we came home and chilled out, watched an episode of His Dark Materials. So I started the stream. I hadn't had any alcohol for an hour and a half when I started the stream at 10. So I don't feel that drunk at the moment. But when Megaleech comes back and joins with his chilled cocktail that I sent him, a Lucino's Delight, I have a Lucino's Delight in the fridge. I'm going to join him in a Lucino's Delight, which is kind of like a gin Manhattan, bit complicated. On the Tim Smith scale, like probably 3/4 Tim Smithed. But then again, like I said, then I had an hour and a half with no more alcohol. Yeah. Safa, the cocktails are safe to put in the freezer because they're not going to freeze because there's so much fucking booze in them, and they're nice icy cold. And I think I diluted yours. I don't know if you've tried yours yet, Safa, but if you do, if it feels a bit strong, don't be shy about putting a bit of water or even a bit of soda in it, because if it's a bit strong, then that means maybe I didn't remember to dilute it, because you're supposed to stir it on ice, which dilutes it, but I just had it in the fridge. So if it tastes a bit strong, don't be shy about putting a bit of water or soda in it. Just, whether it's just a splash or however fuck much you want, really. Mimsy's just hanging out with us tonight. It's a Mimsy night, isn't it? Yes. You have to drive tomorrow. Yeah. Well, I'd say what I sent you is probably somewhere in the region of 4 or 5 standard drinks. Would it go well mixed with cider? I think it would be a bit weird mixed with cider. Not necessarily bad, but weird. Honestly, I would. I mean, it'll be fine after a cider. But I wouldn't mix it with soda. I'd just put some water in. Oh, you have a friend, otherwise you do the thing short story. We'll do that at some point whenever you're ready. It's fine. Oh, thank you. QR code. Yes. Fucking brain stopped working. The advanced barcode. QR codes, we call them. Yes. The funny thing with them is you can actually make them quite artistic. They kind of went through a phase. It's like QR codes, it's like they were being really pushed, and this was a couple of years ago. They were being pushed as like a super big deal, like QR codes everywhere, QR codes on everything. And then they never took off. And then it became like really passe to have a QR code on anything. But in the last year or two, I feel like they've just started to make a low-key resurgence, like no hype. They're just being used a little bit. I like that. Fun fact, Japan was using QR codes in the 90s. Yeah. I remember someone tried to differentiate, like when they were first being pushed, and this was quite a few years ago, like 10 years ago or something. Someone tried to call them 3D barcodes because with your regular barcodes, like that one, the scanner reads the gaps between the black and the white, and it tells it something, but it basically reads it across, and but the QR codes, because you're actually scanning the whole thing, so you're scanning left to right and up to down to up, whichever way you want to put it, all at once. So they can actually store significantly more data than traditional barcode. In fact, they can store malicious code, which is a bit of a hoot. Kevy, mate, QR codes. Yes, well, yeah, you're the second one to say that, Kevy, mate. Strictly Sega, people got confident with the QR codes because of COVID check-ins. You can QR code a quick talk. It's kind of funny. There are all these stories about people with their boomer parents or grandparents saying it didn't work, and then they'd look at their phone and there'd be 50 photos of QR codes, and it's like, no, you don't actually take a photo. Yes, you use your camera, but you're not taking a photo. Your camera communicates with your phone, and yeah, but that's a whole thing. So, what are you gonna do? I did actually have an energy drink before coming on the stream because I thought, holy shit, I had like 4 cocktails and they weren't weak. And we're going to see how we go for Friday night stream. If there was anything else fun. All right. Looks a lordy. Oh no. Oh no, someone being scammed by a fraudulent crypto website. Oh no. That doesn't happen often. I now got a fucking. Ugh. Good Lord, I hope I don't keep yawning. Energy drinks cause crash and burn. They're a bad idea, says the person who had one a little while ago. Energy drinks cause an artificial surge of energy, and then you burn out. And some people, unfortunately, abuse them to the extent like drinking dozens a day, and that's enough to fuck your body up because of the various ingredients in the energy drinks. Mimsy's just really swapping poses tonight, isn't she? Now she's turned 180 degrees. She's a weird cat. Oh, yeah, no, that's Safa. That's a common one. Getting a text or a call. I got a call today. It's like with a text to voice bot going, "This is Amazon. You have been billed $299.99 for a purchase. If this is not the case, please press 1." You know, and it's just fuck off. Yeah, I think the issue it's just not just sugar and caffeine; it's some other additives. And yeah, kids shouldn't drink them at all. And 2 to 3 today, there are some really, really disturbing stories of some kids. Like I said, drinking like a dozen a day. Shit can fucking kill you at that point. Spam calls, you press 1 and make porn noises. I tried to lead one guy on once, calls and goes, I'm from Microsoft and I'm here. There's a virus on your computer. And so he just decided to put on this beautiful voice. Oh, no. Was it from a bad website? And you go, that's how it can happen, sir. And I was like, oh, I got warned. Oh, it was, do you think it was the pornography that did it? Well, sir, that's possible. Yeah. Wait, you tell me I'm going to describe what was on this website, and you tell me if that's what it is. You don't have to do that, sir. And then I just got a written description of, I just brought up a written description of the classic 2 girls, 1 cup. And I kept reciting the description until he hung up. Liam, am I tired? I'm a little tired. I have this problem sometimes if I yawn once. And even just saying yawn then made me yawn. Now I feel like it's gone. All the yawns are gone. I won't yawn again, he said foolishly. We'll see how that goes. Bold move, Cotton. Let's see how that pays off for him. And yeah, you do get the people on with YouTube channels, names like Scam Baiters and Scam Hunters, actually really quite freakishly talented hackers who get into these scammers' systems and fuck them up. Like they track them down, they track down the actual physical location of where they are, and they'll get pictures of the building from surveillance cameras in the area, and then they break into the systems and they just go through and they download all the files from these systems, and they get the names, they get the staff names and whatnot, and then they just tell the scammer what they've got, and the scammer freaks right the fuck out. Kev, you talk to scammers about your day. Nice. Tell them an argument, ask who's right. That's a nice one. I like that. Yeah, Safa, I don't know a lot about enforcement in India, but I suspect the chances of getting any significant enforcement quite low. I am going to have, believe it or not, a non-alcoholic beverage. Liam, I'm looking forward to Christmas. Man, I'm just taking it easy. Are you looking forward to Christmas? Who's looking forward to Christmas? I'm just chilling the fuck out, honestly. Right. getting my non-alcoholic beverage glass, which needs some ice. Ice, ice, baby. All right. I think I'll have a ginger ale, actually. Actually, I don't think I just had this distiller's cola. I had it with some rum. I want to taste what it's like on its own. I need a bottle opener. There'll be one around here somewhere. Like this. So yeah, I thought this was interesting. Fever Tree's Distiller's Cola, natural flavors, Caribbean cola nut, rich and complex. So they're basically saying and I basically never have, alcohol and cola, whether it's rum and cola or whiskey and cola. But they're saying no, this is a much better flavor than your average colas for mixing. And I don't think it's got caffeine in it. I will look now. Nicely, I'm looking forward to it. Christmas lunch with a theme. Excellent fun. Safa, I think my offspring are going to go to their grandparents' place for Christmas. I'm going to need a bit more light because this has got tiny writing on it. Energy. Protein. Yeah, it doesn't have caffeine. I said ingredients: carbonated sugar, natural flavoring. Including caffeine. Roasted barley extract. Contains gluten. Natural flavors. No artificial sweetness. So it's got sugar. Doesn't say how much caffeine's in it though. But it's got some caffeine in it. Kevin, mate, Doritos make great sodas. Safa, it's been barely. Let me see. When was the AZ text? It's not even been 20 minutes. Other night it took 90 minutes to join. We'll see how he goes. It's actually quite nice. Sorry, Liam. I love that. Your Christmas lunch theme, Nightmare Before Christmas. That's excellent. I like that. See, if you've never had Doritos sodas, that's a Mexican soda brand. And they do a whole bunch of fruit sodas and a cola, and they're really yummy. Doritos make good sodas. This is actually a really interesting flavor. To me, there's an almost orange flavor in that. Very caramelly. And I suppose that's the actual natural cola nut flavor I'm tasting as well. This is like roasted barley. It's quite pleasant. I don't think I drink a lot of this, but then again, maybe that's a good thing. Just drink a small amount of it to get that somewhat unique flavor. Kevin, mate, I like Nightmare Before Christmas. Oh, right. Okay. Favorite Christmas movies. God, actually, for me, it might be Nightmare Before Christmas, actually. I enjoy that movie. I haven't watched it for a little while, but it's pretty fun. Very weird. gets very weird and dark as well. It's hilarious. All right, Safa loves Elf. I think, there's the old joke of, Die Hard being a Christmas movie. Here's the thing, I don't really watch Christmas movies. Oh god, there's an animated series created by one of the co-creators of Rick and Morty called Solar Opposites. It's a sci-fi one. And they did a Christmas special a year ago. It was fucking twisted. It was really funny. It's like they wanted to have a Christmas adventure and they based it on Jingle All the Way. And then they discovered Jingle All the Way sucked and it was terrible. Bad Santa is pretty funny. Big is back. Hello. Yes, Christmas Vacation. Definitely a Christmas movie. Oh, actually, that's not a bad call, Strictly Sega. The Nightmare Before Christmas soundtrack is actually pretty good. I did like the concept that any sort of big events, holidays, have a sort of magical land where everything happens. We only see Halloween land and Christmas, but you can see that there's one for Valentine's Day and one for Easter and the other things. So. I think Sega Dreamcast did okay in Australia. And Megaleech is back with your Lucino's Delight. Okay. I was going to have one with you, but I'm drinking this cola. Sadly, Dr. Abigail, I have not seen your 3.5 millimeter crochet needle anywhere. Speaking of people who haven't seen crochet needles,
I have seen Dr. Abigail's 3.5 millimeter crochet needle. I am sorry to say it is now in an unusable state. If she wants to use it for anything other than say what I would use it for.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I just have to answer a question from Megaleech with the cocktail I sent you. No, you don't need ice. I am pretty sure I did the dilution because there's one of those you meant to like stir on ice and get dilution that way. And I'm pretty sure I put the dilution in. So give it a taste. If it seems a bit strong, don't be shy about putting a little bit of chilled water in it because it's supposed to be diluted a little bit.
I find that. I had to have an injection today because I looked at a black person.
Oh dear.
And I asked them to put a bit of chilled water in because I was afraid of the needle.
Whenever you're afraid of needles, all I always think of is that old Jeff Goldblum movie, The Tall Guy, the one they did in England. Emma Thompson was his love interest. And he's too dorky to just talk to her. And so he comes up with the excuse he's going to Africa because you have to get a whole bunch of vaccinations before he goes there, and she'll give him. And he's just nervously talking about which country he's going to. And he goes, Joe Wharton went there to have sex with little boys. And then pauses and goes, that's not why I'm going there. So. Megaleech, if you want to garnish with a strawberry, I think that would be a good garnish.
Megaleech, Jesus fuck, come on, man. It's mango season. I'm angry, right? I'm angry. I've tipped Hitler Coke on my my soak-up pads. Yeah. My soak-up pads are to stop liquids going into my desk, right? Yeah. But they're not for pouring liquid.
Don't pour a whole thing on them,
right? So whenever you have to use them as soak-up pads, because I just did some washing today, right?
Yeah.
And everybody has them because they were damp when they came out of the dryer. I dried them twice. And I went, you put them on for 5 minutes and they're dry. And they were. And it was brilliant. And look, slight confession, haven't slept in 3 days.
Oh, goddamn. Okay.
So I might not be here for the full party tonight. And I might say some things that I will regret later.
Well, for as long as you're here, man.
Things like woman, nigger, Alpachi, stuff like that. I'll say that. But just remember to have a bit of forgiveness in your hearts for me, and a little bit of Adsy thoughts on nectarines.
Satan's testicles? Stay calm.
Okay, no, I'm there. I'm good. There's a calm blue ocean. and the sun's behind me. And I'm sitting on the beach in a bathtub. Over the bathtub is an umbrella. Next to the bathtub with the umbrella is a man wearing not much but a collar. He has a tray with drinks and powdered lines on the tray with a gold straw. Behind me is a volcanic mountain with tropical plants on it. And it is a beautiful day. And there are no fucking nectarines anywhere.
Damn it.
They may taste good, but they were made by Jews.
Yes. AIDSy without context gets us all sent to prison. Again, all of us who have context are fine with it. I just think someone with no context is just like, oh my God.
I just love Liam going, so how things with you, mate? No, nectarines were in fact invented in Queensland. They were basically a sort of it was a many years breeding project from peaches and what's the other one that's on the peach? That's close. That's got a stone in it.
You're going to get upset at me if I just look it up. And nectarines
apricot.
originated in China over 2,000 years ago.
But our modern ones were bred up from.
Well, okay, you do actually get. There's nectarines and nectarines. You actually get a variety.
Yeah. There's not just one nectarine, but the ones that we eat in our supermarkets were bred up over about 20 years in Queensland using apricots, peaches, and mandarins. And the idea was they wanted the sweetness of the mandarin with the fleshy goodness of the nectar of the
peach
and the what's the other fucking come on, you just had it.
The base nectarine is a peach plum hybrid.
Peach plum but in Australia it was peach and apricot and mandarin. That's how they did it here. I know this. My grandfather farmer told me. Went through it all with me because I didn't understand how you could get pretty colours on corn. You know how you get corn with different rows?
Holy shit! Sorry, I was looking up trivia about nectarines. According to this site, peach seeds may occasionally grow into trees that bear nectarines, and nectarine seeds may grow into trees that bear either nectarines or peaches. it's not possible to know which fruit will grow on trees grown from nectarine seeds. So nectarine branches are grafted onto peach trees to guarantee a crop of nectarines. That's trippy as fuck.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. If you can get a
That's
good
trippy as
nectarine
fuck.
supply, then you
Yeah,
are fucking home and hosed. Because what you do then is you get your branch of nectarines, and then you catch 75% of the seeds. Then you sow a stock of either oranges or peaches, and then V splice them, and then
yeah,
you've got a nectarine tree, and then you do that over and over and over and over and over again for 15 years, and you've got a nectarine orchard.
yeah,
And then you've got fucking a cruise every summer for the
yeah,
next 20 years.
yeah.
Um,
But
the trouble
fruit
with nectarines is they
grafting plants
die.
does my head in.
I love
Grafting
grafting
plants does
plants.
my head in.
I love the shit out of grafting plants. It's one of the
I think it's
few.
incredible.
It's one of the few hand tool things that I can do.
Yeah,
Right. I've always been shit at making things with my hands. Right. Unless there's a guy with a funny pointy nose on a yellow sheet going put the Allen key in this way. I have no clue. But grafting plants is something I can just for some
yeah,
reason fucking get my head around really easily. I can
yeah,
make Roma tomatoes and black tomatoes grow on the same bush.
yeah.
I can make Roma tomatoes, marijuana, and black tomatoes grow on the same bush.
Yeah.
I can make Roma
There's a
tomatoes and
place.
marijuana
Yeah, there's
taste
a
the
place near
same.
me. It's got a rose bush, and half the bush is pure white roses, and the other half is red roses on the one bush. Although I have to admit, my all-time favorite is the fruit salad tree. You can get trees that have been grafted, so when they mature, they have all the citrus on them. Can get trees that do 2, 3, or even 4 different fruits because they've grafted the different branches. That is just wild to me that you can get
And
one tree to do that.
they are hideously expensive. They are
Yeah, yeah. I
wildly
mean, I was really
expensive.
tempted to get one at one point. I was looking it up. There are people near Melbourne who do. There's fun. I'm going to look up.
The fruit salad trees are A, brilliant, B, very hard to do, and C, really fragile. For some reason, for citrus plants, they're really fragile. And because
Oh,
citrus plants are usually really robust, um, and at one point, the CSIRO actually grafted tobacco genes into alphabet um, trees. They made the alphabet project was they wanted to get as much fruit as they could out of the one tree. It was the alphabet tree. It wasn't
yeah,
the fruit salad tree. It was the alphabet tree, and the bloody thing would go and then just die.
yeah,
And so what they did was they grafted tobacco uh, um, genes in because tobacco is incredibly hardy. It's like really tough to kill. It's almost classed as a weed. Um, Marijuana, for example, is classed as a weed because you just can't get rid of that shit once it gets going. And unfortunately, the marijuana weed is always made up of one male plant, one female plant to 100 male plants, and that's not what you want. Whereas the alphabet tree is just this delicate little petal on its own. So they put the tobacco graft in to give it some robustness in stalk and some robustness in twist. So, what the fuck am I talking about?
I don't know.
Plants, right? Grow up, turn 3/5, sprout, and grow up. Then they turn 3/5, then they sprout and grow up. And they continue doing that for the rest of their lives. Every time they turn, the phloem and xylem that is supporting their growth is tobacco. Yes, tobacco is the thing. Tobacco
The
is the
famous
thing.
Simpsons episode, tomatoes crossed with tobacco, and they were
Well,
highly addictive.
they fucking did it here in Australia. They didn't say much about it because it's illegal. Because they wanted to make a certain genus of tomato
Well,
easier to make.
tobacco actually has a natural thing that repels a whole bunch of insects. And if you could get the leaves of various other plants to secrete the same thing, it's a natural pesticide. So I could see the reason for the research. I looked up, there is actually a fruitsaladtrees.com, which is Australian. And it's a really shitty, poorly maintained website. It's hard to work out if they have anything in stock, but it looks like, I don't know, with the weather and stuff has been making it difficult for them, and they don't have anything in stock. But when they do, it's fascinating. They have stone fruit trees, so they have a variety. It might be peaches, plums, nectarines, apricots, peachcots. Citrus trees could have lemons, limes, mandarins, orange, tangelos, pomelos, grapefruit, lemonades, and the apple trees have they have up to 6 varieties of apples that can be on the apple trees.
They were made in Bathurst, I'll have you know.
Yeah, Orange Bathurst is one of the apple growing areas in
You
Australia.
remember the farm next to Mitchell?
Yeah,
That was the CSIRO
I was about to
apple
say that was a research
genetics.
farm.
Yeah, it was a research station. It was the CSIRO apple research station.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I got to go on a tour. It was awesome. I was a juggler and I got to go on a tour. And I said, okay, this is what we do. And they took us out on the tractor and showed us everything
yeah.
and showed us maps and their charts and their computers. And they say, okay, it takes 20 years, but it's worth it. We just go, dude, you are the most patient man in history. If I can't get these 3 clubs going in 5 months, that's it. I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a whole
And
bunch of crops that, to be really serious, is 10 or 20 years. I was about to ask Megalich, what do you think of the cocktail? Because I did pour one myself. Strong. It is an all booze cocktail. Do not feel at all shy about putting a splash of water in there. I think the vermouth is coming through really well. Oh, that's an interesting question, Dr. Abigail. Research into plant bioaccumulating minerals from certain soils. So you could get iron trees, copper trees. AZ says he knows something about that.
there has been and is being a lot of research about getting plants to suck up silicon and to place it next to sun sun catching what do they call those holes where the plant aspirates. Okay, they put the silicon plates next to that. The plant does all this, right? And because the plant aspirates, it also drags electricity. The plant is then made to put cathodes and anodes right down the guts of its leaf and down the xylem or phloem, and down the bottom, the human puts a ring to catch the electrons. And as long as that plant is growing silicon leaves, it's being a solar electrical plant. I
Uh-huh.
know. They have been working on it for about 15 years. It works. It goes. They're working out whether it'll be. One of the things they have to do now in Australia is they must come up with how to kill it, because we don't like weeds in Australia. The Scotch thistle, the cactoblastis,
Sorry,
the
you weeds. You might know this one. Have you seen the stories about the supermarket greens being contaminated with a rogue leaf? Twas a
I've
cousin of
not.
Datura. No, the supermarket green leaf in bags got contaminated with weeds that have hallucinogenic qualities, and so people were getting sick and also tripping balls because they had some spinach in a salad. So yeah,
I
that's
saw a thing on a railway saying Australians are being told not to buy spinach to get high. Anyway, like that's nice.
oh yeah, no, because
And
it went in cycles.
and
First, it
then left
was people getting
left it
sick,
alone.
and
Uh,
then someone heard it was actually an hallucinogen. So there were stories of people going to the supermarkets to deliberately try and find the bags that had the hallucinogens in them, and they were told not to because it's very dangerous, and it is. It's not a joke. It's not a reefer madness thing. Datura and nightshade and all those. This
Datura
one, the
will
Americans
fuck
call it
you up.
Jensen weed, I think, will fuck
Yeah,
you up.
yeah.
Also,
Datura will fuck you up.
completely unrelated, very brief side thing. I want to remind Megaleech, we're both drinking the Chino's Delight. It's made up, it's gin, sweet vermouth, maraschino liqueur, and an Amaro. So it is all booze. So it is a strong cocktail. So as I said, you should not. It's very tasty. I think the vermouth comes through really well, but you shouldn't feel shy about putting a splash of water in there just to dilute it a little bit, because
Hey,
it's a really strong cocktail.
also an aside, just because I
Yeah.
won't get to talk to you again.
Yeah.
How busy are you tomorrow?
It's probably not a great day for me to be doing stuff. I'm supposed to be doing a bit of driving around. Why do you ask?
I need to see you before Christmas.
All right, then you should call me tomorrow then.
Right, I'll call you tomorrow then.
All right.
It's just brief.
Yeah.
I also need to get to Berkeley Square. I can't go very far. My mobility sucks.
Yeah.
But I can go. I'll probably do this. I could probably go to Berkeley. I could probably go to my own mall.
Oh yes. I
Like
know
I
what you're
said,
talking about.
it's not very far. It's not very. It's not going to be a long thing. It's not going to be a
Yeah.
long thing. But I found
Yep.
the thing. Finally, I got you a Christmas present.
Oh, you're sweet.
I am sweet. I am sweet.
Oh,
Tobacco's a real thing. The reason they're trying to work on the solar tree, and the reason we're not hearing a lot about it is because can you imagine the patents? Yeah, no shit. Plant this and wire it up, and as long as you have some water to it for the next 20 years, you've got free electricity. Some patents involved.
yes.
Yeah, some cash will be spent. Yeah, and CSIRO's got itself around to going, let's get a patent on that first.
Yeah.
And they're getting better at it too. The thing that shat me the most, and it still shits me to this very day, is the ACT airport, which is called Fairbairn, because it's a military base.
Yeah.
was the place where the CSIRO tested a thing called the International Landing System that they'd invented. And they tested it a fair bit, and it works brilliantly. And they said to the Liberal government at the time, may we have $10 million, please, to develop this? And the Liberal government at the time said, is it involving farming or farmers? And they said, no, it's involving aeroplanes. And they went, well, we don't want to know about that. And then 3 years later, they bought the ILS off the United States for $10 billion.
It's because they're idiots.
We could have had that. We could have had that. We could have had that. See, that would have put me through school, and the priests wouldn't have bothered to find out if I was a homosexual or not. They would have just gone, just back the truck up of money. Is he gay? Give a fuck. Give him an iPad. We know they've been invented because Australians invented them because we've got the money. So CSIRO is getting better and better and better at not just giving shit away. And so the solar tree, which is a real thing, is happening. There is so much excitement about fusion power right now. It's just fucking making people cream their dacks, me included. It's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous how simple this is.
Yeah.
And why no one thought of it earlier. You know how the best ideas are so simple, you just go, why didn't I do that? Like me,
yes,
personally.
after the fact, they seem obvious.
Yeah, it's that stuff. It's that stuff, right? It's like me with no physics background whatsoever saw the presentation and went, that is not only going to fucking work, that is going to be the best thing ever. Like, the waste is electricity. That's
Sorry,
the waste.
I was just looking something up because I also sent Safa a cocktail. No, Safa, you got the 4 in hand, which is an old-fashioned variation, very boozy old-fashioned. That's actually split. It's got whiskey, apple brandy, high-proof rum, and green chartreuse in it. So that is a very boozy old-fashioned that you have, which is why also diluting that is not a bad idea because it's a super fucking boozy cocktail.
Unless you don't want to.
Yeah. So yeah.
I guess we're saying don't drive after the chat.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
don't drive after
brandy and rum. Yeah, well, it's a good quality brandy. It's a good quality rum. It's actually all good quality, but yeah, it's super boozy. And that's why I barrel aged them because they're all super boozy. You'll be fine. I mean, you drink that. If the whole thing I sent you is probably 4 or 5 standard drinks, so that's gone from your system in a couple of hours. So you go to sleep tonight, you're not going to be drunk when you wake up. You know, that out of your system in a couple of hours.
I've done that many times before.
I feel like really only once or twice I've woken up, got out of bed and taken a few steps and gone, fuck me, I'm still drunk. It's just like, and then I start counting the hours I was asleep and working out, okay, 1 standard drink leaves your system for every one of those hours. Motherfuck, how much did I drink last night?
Much did I drink last night?
Oh.
And who is this woman in my bed? And who is this man in my bed? And who is this other man in my bed? And who is this other woman in my bed?
Yeah.
And why am I still attached to 3 of them?
Some of them, yeah. Megaliters. Well, the whole jar. Look, I'm being very imprecise. The whole jar is probably 4 or 5 standard drinks.
Is that like a mason jar?
No, I put together. It was about. This isn't what I sent, but it was about this big. So
you posted these things?
yeah, no, I just said in the stream one day because I'd been making all these barrel aged cocktails, and it makes a liter or over a liter each time, and so they were starting to build up in the fridge, and I was like, "Who wants a cocktail for Christmas?" And a few people put their hand up, so I put them in little plastic jars and posted it to them, and they sort of got them all this week, and it's basically there's like 2 cocktails in each thing I sent to people. So about 4 or 5 standard drinks in each one.
That's a nice thing to do.
It was just like a fun thing. I just thought, for everyone who's a regular, if anyone's up for it, give me a postal address and I'll send something out.
By the way, just to finish off what I was talking about, this thing that looks like it's a goer.
Yeah.
And the joke always is that fusion power has been 10 to 15 years off for the last 50 years.
Yes.
Well, this actually looks like it's a goer, and a lot earlier than that, because it's been going. The downside is the fuel to make it go is abundant on Earth, but the kicker, the fuse, is tricky to get, and it's easiest to get on the other side of the moon, right? So you start to look at all the countries that are sending all of these probes and all of these searching craft to the moon. Why? We've been there. We've done that. We know the rocks. We know how it was made. We know where it came from. We know just about everything there is to know. But all these countries, including India, has sent its own probe around the moon and dropped one down onto the surface to have a look. And the fuel to kickstart the process is in abundance just under the surface of the dust. So if you can imagine something a bit like a combine harvester, just rolling over the surface of the moon, just sucking up this liquid gas, basically a tank the size of your oxy welding tanks, those big ones, will light up a city for a year and a half. A drum the size that you see in those big bloody tank farms in ports and in airports will run the world for 3, 4, 5 years. And the amount of uranium that's sitting in Australia right now that will be mined from underground, not open pit, but mined from underground, because it'll be easier to process that way, will basically run the planet for 5,000 to 6,000 years with the current energy curve going up. You know how the energy curve goes up?
Yeah.
Well, they're saying if it stays going up like that for between 5,000 and 6,000 years, that's our energy problem sorted. With the waste material is electricity.
Yes. It's the first real step forward in a very long time. As you say, the joke fusion's 5 years away since the 1950s. Now, it's still, in terms of, it's the first one that actually seems to have genuinely produced more power than was required to make the reaction happen.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so then it becomes, can you build a working reactor that does it continuously? And
Yep.
if that happens and that's safe, then it's like, okay, now can you deploy this out to human beings? It's a ways down the road still.
It's a ways down the road, and there's two problems, right? The two problems is, can we get the nations and the fuel companies to agree about mining the moon? Can they agree? Because if they can't, we're fucked. Second problem is, you either make ginormous ones sitting outside your city, pumping out electricity, or you make little ones, okay? You make little ones and you truck them modularly to places that are either growing or static or even getting littler. And then that way you can just keep on stacking them up as they need more. Say you've got a project. I'm going to irrigate this bit of the Sahara, but I'm going to need a little bit of energy to do it. So you put 20,000 units out there. So that's great. And then when you finish doing that, you can cut back on that and move the units to other places, like a village that needs more power or whatever.
Yeah.
Downside is you've got to make those units. Who gets to make them? Is it one company or do you share that around? Last problem, and this is a kicker, and it's one that everybody's debating. The real common sense thing to do is to bring the fuel companies that have fucked the earth in on this, because they have the distribution around the earth to make this happen very quickly. Very quickly. If we cut them out, we've got to basically duplicate everything they've done over 150 years. But if we say you can have your roots and your areas, as long as you don't gouge the public, then everybody gets it years faster, much faster, and it's a real sticking point politically between those who go, I want my planet not to die, and those who are going, these are the people who killed the planet. Why would we give them more money? It's awkward. It's so awkward. The other thing too is the oil companies can't die because we need them for so many things. We need them for plastics. We need them for medicines. We need them for. It goes on. The list goes on. It just goes on and on and on and on and on.
There's a streaming service adaptation of The Man Who Fell to Earth. I don't know if you ever watched that weird 70s film with David Bowie in it.
I did actually,
yeah. So there's an adaptation on Prime. I think it's like 8 parts. It's very good. I've watched it. But there's one thing with this aliens come and he's got this little handheld thing that is like, when it's running properly, is an inexhaustible fusion reactor. And he's got to do something on Earth because then it'll help him save his own planet as well. But there's one bit where they work with this guy. He's worked for one of the big energy companies, and he's a risk analyst. And there's just him, what happens if this is released onto the market tomorrow? And he just freaks out and he goes, oh, okay. So, and he just rattles off economic collapse it would cause, how many millions of people would be out of work overnight. And he goes, oh, and then the Middle East has no power and so nothing to lose. And so that's going to get 100 times worse than it is. It was really quite interesting because it's like, yeah, fusion, we're saved. And he just went,
No,
without the proper
no.
transition,
We're
here's
screwed.
here's everything that goes wrong.
Well, this is part of this argument, and this is part of the guy who invented this shit. Said we've got to do this very carefully, because if everybody loses their job on Monday, it's going to be nuclear war on Thursday.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he said, "I don't
It's so
want that. I'm not
disruptive.
interested in that. I don't want. I want everyone to join in, not to be kept out." And of course, America and Russia and China are saying we want everyone to be kept out, and it's very difficult to argue with them. It's very difficult. But he said, look, seriously, if worse comes to worse, I'll do a subscription service and go open source. And he says, and now I'm off to go and buy security. And can you imagine it? Can you imagine it just hitting the net as open source? This is how you do it.
Yeah.
I just like the nightmare that would be just like the superpowers would lose their shit immediately.
Well, people who have a lot of power never like to give it up, and so a major disruptor that threatens everything. Again, well, we've seen fuckheads will start wars rather than relinquish power. So,
hang on. See, I was alive in the 1980s when the feminazis were in control. And I found that they were so into letting go of a little bit of what they had so that the men could have their 1 or 2% back. And I found there was no conflict there at all. And that was over percentages in the unit value, not in the 90s value. I found that people love to give up power. They love the shit out of it. I got a policeman's baton off him once during a nuclear demo. And never again. It was just a lucky thing. I just sort of caught it and grabbed it. I went, sweet, like that, right? I went, oh, sweet. Yeah. And he backed up and went, demonstrate a baton, and 6 of them were around me before plank time and were kicking the fuck out of me, going, let go of the weapon, let go of the weapon, let go of the weapon, which I did. And then they were still kicking the fuck out of me, going, let go of the weapon, let go of the weapon. And I think that was the teaching phase.
Yeah.
I think that was the teaching. Yeah, stop resisting. And that was the first time I learned about why they have those very, very thin zip ties. Because for some reason I couldn't breathe, and I couldn't understand why I couldn't breathe. No one was on my back, and they had a zip tie around my neck, and we're just pulling it, and it was like, yeah, no. And then they kicked the shit out of me, and into the back of the paddy wagon I went. Yeah. Mind your head, face first, right into the back of the truck. Boom! It's like, ow, ow. I'm only little and I'm sore. When they got me to the station, they were all laughing at me because there was like 4 of us in there. 3 of them were handcuffed properly, like, hand and foot. And then I was there and I was just a mess. Like I had bruises and shit all over me in my school uniform. Fuck, that went over well. Because I'd played hooky to go to
the rally.
It wasn't a rally, it was a demo.
It was a demo.
And we knew it was a demo, and we knew who the captains were because they had coloured hair.
Yeah.
And on Tuesday, the captains had yellow hair and the lieutenants had red hair. Every day the colours changed. It was very clever. And the aim was during the week to get into the ground and next 2 floors to stop business at the nuclear company. Footscray used to be kings of putting phone book on you to hit you with batteries to avoid bruises. There were a few kings of doing that.
It's pretty
surprised.
For those who've ever, I should say, if anyone who's ever heard that phrase about putting a phone book against you, what it does, this is a literal thing that coppers would do. Put a phone book usually against your torso and then hit, as Razor's saying, with like batteries in a sock, or punch it. And what it does is disperse the force so it doesn't leave a bruise, or it doesn't leave a bruise that looks like a punch. But it doesn't stop any of the force of the punch or the kick or the whatever.
No, it does not.
Disperses it so you don't bruise. And it hurts.
It fucking really hurts. It fucking really hurts. And the other one too is they get the phone book out and you think, oh yeah, they're going to place it next to my head. No, they're just going to hit me with it.
And that's actually, especially the big old phone books, that was remarkably effective to just smack someone across the head with.
Oh God, that hurt. I lost a tooth because they went bang this way. I lost a tooth when they did it. I came right off the seat, and I was handcuffed to the table, and I came right off the seat. And I went, oh, hang on, just a sec. And I got back on and went, oh, excuse me, and spat into my hand. I didn't spit on the desk or on the floor or anything because I wasn't a fucking animal. I spat on the floor. I said, do you want to stick this in a bin or something? And they went, nah, you better hang on to that. We might want to put it back. I think it's a bit showy. Take him to the dentist. And they had a fucking dentist in one of their rooms. I couldn't believe they had a dentist ready to go to put teeth back in after they'd been punched out. Unfucking believable. And them dogs used to live for it. When they pinched me for the painting, I had them taking turns on the swings.
Yeah. Footscray, I know one, like, again, the degree to which they would just do whatever they want. There was a period where I was doing some stuff that involved working with guys who were running the pawn shops, PAWN, let's be frank, most of them are buying stolen shit. But whatevs. There's legitimate businesses in there. There's one guy said, went in to see him, and he's, the fucking cops here yesterday. And I don't know, because they'd had a rumor that someone was shifting guns through the pawn shops. And he's going, well, it's not me. There's no fucking guns here. And then they got real belligerent and said, they're just going through the stuff. And this was long enough ago. I think it was a PlayStation 2. Does anyone remember the PlayStation 2 had that weird little orange plastic gun that
yes,
like a gun?
Yes.
So they pulled one of them out and this weird little gun attachment, and they went, oh, no guns, eh? This is possession. And he's just standing there going, are you fucking joking? And he go, you are going to be that blatant. You are going to be that blatant and fucking bent that your excuse for dragging me into a cell with no windows and kicking the shit out of me, you're going to say I had a gun. It's eventually going to get to court, and it's eventually going to come out. It was this little orange plastic thing from a PlayStation 2, but you just don't give a shit, and you're going to do it anyway. And it's just like, fucking hell.
It was weird. Canberra was a weird place. I mean, so back in my day in the 80s, it wasn't a state yet. It wasn't officially a state. It was a territory. Okay. It's still called AC territory. But it's now a fully fledged state. It's got its own legislative assembly. It's got its own, government.
Yeah.
was just laughing because the Premier, one time during the bushfires of Canberra, bad bushfires, a helicopter had come in to load its bucket, yeah, and it had fucked up and their wing had hit it was a windy day, the wing had hit a wave and boom, over it went. And the helicopter pilot couldn't get out of the door. There was enough air in there to keep it up, enough fuel in there to keep it up. And the Premier said to the helicopter that was like watching this, it was a news helicopter, said, "Oh, take us closer. Take us a bit closer. I just want to see. Oh, just a bit closer, just a bit lower, just a bit lower." And then he fucking jumped in, swam over to the helicopter and let the guy out.
Oh,
And then they both swam back to the shore, and a shitstorm that happened. When I got stabbed, I was drafted off my dogs through in the street and called me and the joke and said my life a whole nose till I got there. Dogs. That used to happen to us too.
Ainsley has told extremely colourful stories on the stream before about stabbings and shootings in Canberra.
Well, I mean, one of the things that happened when you got stabbed and shot in Canberra, this is where I was going with all of this.
Yeah.
Apart from Mr. Gedson, every other Premier was called first name Premier, but he was Mr. Gedson. Everybody respected him. Everybody respected him. He was the man. If he could have done another term, they would have put him in, but he had cancer. And so he said, "I can't really because I'm going to be fucking at the doctors every 10 seconds." And I went, can you just do it from bed? He went, "Really, I'm not really allowed to." He lived, and they wanted to go back in. Anyway, back in those days, there wasn't, before he got in, it wasn't a state, and we had the federal coppers, okay? And we had the federal coppers that the federal coppers didn't want. They weren't any good. And so the federal coppers said, "You're a bit shit. You can, or you're a bit corrupt, or you're a bit of a
You're just a bit off.
And you scare me because you say things like, 'Oh, great, I've got a gun now. I can get my own ammo from an ammo supply.'" Okay. And, because like most coppers ask, "Where do I get plastic bullets?" Like where do I get rubber or plastic bullets? Quietly they ask this because you're not supposed to have them on you. But most coppers don't want to kill people. Crazy.
Most, yes.
But then you get the ones who go, "I can get my own ammo." These are great because you can get extended cartridge ones. And they go, "Yeah, dude, you're a beat cop in Canberra now." And so we used to get these guys who were just shocking. They were corrupt. They were lazy. They were incompetent as fuck. And they were just into punching down, right? There's a famous expression in comedy: punching down, punching up. Punching up is when you punch authority that's higher than yours. Punching down is punching people or ideas or things that aren't as tough as you. So making jokes about black people, making jokes about women, is punching down because, I mean, you've already got the power. Punching up is making jokes about your local council member who can truly fuck you. Because ironically, the lower the political grade of the person, the more you joke about them, the more they've got you. The higher the grade of the political person, if the Prime Minister gets joked about, they can't touch you. They can't touch you at all. But if you hit a state member or a council member, they can really hurt you. So make sure what you're saying is true. Anyway, when we were kids, we would go. There'd be nothing to do. I mean, when you're a tiny kid, there was great stuff to do. There were great parks, and there was great swing sets, and it's just amazing. But then you became a hairy ass kid at 13, 14, and there was fucking nothing to do except for smoke, drugs, and fuck. And so, in order to do that, you had to get money. In order to do that, you had to go and collect drugs from somewhere and sell them to someone else. So you got money, so you could get girls, and then you could have the sex with them, and then you could repeat the process. And I am really, really simplifying a thing that is.
That's the Scarface thing. First you get the money, then you get the power.
No, I'm really, really simplifying a process that isn't much more complicated. Basically, sometimes you would run into people who thought or believed or had a good point about you being on their territory turf or you've stolen their stuff because you were on their territory turf or had actually stolen their stuff. And they would either stab or shoot you. And if you got an ambulance, they would call the police, and the police would come round. They would patch you up at hospital, and they would take you straight back to the police station, where they would question you for about 12 hours after beating you up. If you ever went to the police station saying you'd been raped, they would rape you again and then let you go. If you ever went to the police station saying I've had something stolen, they would beat you up and then let you go after taking all your money out of your wallet. If you ever needed them, they weren't there. If you never needed them, they were fucking there.
If you didn't want them, they were there.
Fucking right on you. But occasionally there were genius ones. Occasionally there were brilliant ones, right? Like,
It's Christmas. 2 days, Rays. Today, Friday, is and it's almost over. Is Festivus, and then tomorrow is Christmas Eve, and then Sunday's Christmas Day.
Yeah.
So it's Christmas in just over 24 hours, actually, because it's almost midnight. Oh, Dr. Abigail's ready to say hello as well.
Hello, Dr. So yeah, occasionally we had great coppers. I had one that helped me through a really hard time. A really fucking hard time where I nearly got killed twice. And he said the words hate crime, and I'd never heard them before. And he was in with the doctors that were treating me, and he helped smuggle drugs out of the hospital because my father said he doesn't need that rubbish and threw them away. And I had taken on so much pain that, I might have died. Hello, Dr. Abigail.
Hello, I am a puddle of sweaty flesh.
It is a bit sweaty
so hot
today.
in here.
Yeah.
And I've had my 3D printer going, and I've been doing lots of crafts and preparing for Christmas. And I may have been drinking gin, which is
that's all reasonable.
Puddle of sweaty flesh. Did you want to go on with that?
Sorry, you've got him going. That's no, we don't want to go there. Megaleech, in terms of streams, I definitely won't be streaming tomorrow night. I might.
That's Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve tomorrow. I definitely won't be streaming. I might on Sunday. Then again, I might not. So there may or may not be another stream till sometime next week. Who the
Well,
heck knows?
I'll be.
I'm not going to anything.
I will be at the lovely Abigail's place on Sunday.
Nice. For anyone who doesn't
And
know,
guess
that's
who?
a different Abigail. Abigail's
That's
not
not
talking about
me,
herself.
Abigail. That's the
Not
other
talking about
Abigail.
herself in the
And
same.
Does she know that you hang around in sweaty puddles?
she does, yes.
Because
Half the time she causes them.
Who are a matron? Okay.
Oh, you did
Oh,
not
and-
have to do that to me. You did not have to do that to me.
Guess who
I
popped
was
into my? Guess who popped into my place today as well?
Who popped into your place today?
My previous lady friend,
Hmm.
who has been unnamed on this stream, but
enough.
she popped in today as well. She's been off the radar for a while, but she just appeared back on the radar.
Oh,
So,
right. Sounds like that was a
AZ, if you will, picture this: Abigail sandwich with with. Sorry, my son's back there just saying, Abby, no, he doesn't want to hear this.
Can you see the pursed lips of disapproval and the Karen eyes? I'm just saying that all of that is something I don't wish to hear. It's something I wish to participate in.
So what I'm
Christmas,
saying
Happy
is
Christmas,
it's going to
everybody.
be a Merry Christmas.
Oh,
good.
great. I'm so
Have
fucking
yourself
glad
a
for you.
merry little Christmas.
Yeah, have a fucking great one there, Dr. Abigail. I'm so stoked for you. I am just joyous. Let me just fucking go and get myself another fucking Hitler Coke, and I'll be with you.
Oh dear.
My son is back there just nodding his head in disapproval. Shaking his head, shaking his head in disapproval. And
have you ever heard of this
putting...
called Hitler Coke before?
I have, yes. There is a history behind Coca-Cola, Fanta, and the Nazi Party.
Oh yeah, believe me, there is. And Ford,
and
Ford and GM.
Tonight I had to 3D print this. It's a stamp,
right?
And it's got an infinity symbol.
Oh yes,
it's for the wax sealing.
Oh right,
it's a wax sealing stamp.
Make you feel, yeah.
That we all have. We're doing a gift, a group gift for someone, and this is going to be a seal that I'm going to stamp on it. And I had to quickly design and print this tonight, just today.
Yeah. So, we've got days to go.
And I I'm so over 3D design. It's so arsehole. I hate it. It's so finicky and annoying.
Well, that's what I thought you'd appreciate the meme I put on.
Oh, it's just this. The thing is, if I did it all the time, I'd fucking love it, because it is so parameterized and finicky. But I have so many hobbies that I'd have to devote so much more time to learn it, and I just don't have the time or the headspace, and to put my concepts into the free software that's available. It just takes me 3 times as much time and effort to do simple tasks, and it just bugs me. And if I did it as a job or full time, then I'd learn these things and I just do them, and they'd become second nature, and it'd be fine. But
Dr. Abigail, I have 2 questions for you. The first question is, do you play with Blender very much?
I tried using Blender,
It's changed.
I tried
It's-
using Fusion 360. I didn't.
Yeah.
I preferred that over Blender, but what I'm using now is FreeCAD
FreeCAD's
because of
pretty good.
because of the limitations of the
Yeah. Yeah.
licensing of Fusion 360.
Yeah, that makes sense. Blender's changed again,
Okay.
and it has recognised that 3D printing is not going away, and it needs to jump into that bucket.
Yeah,
they've
because
also,
I always thought it was like a video render kind of
they
suite.
they basically what they did was they said we're not going to throw away any of our goods except for the gaming. The gaming got pissed off. What we're going to do is we're going to cut up our suites and concentrate on them as if they were wholly the thing that you have to do, because you don't do 3D 3D CGI with a with a 3D print. You don't do that. So
Yeah.
you cut your 3D print off and go, we use these bits of data for 3D prints. We don't use those. For 3D CGI, we use the bigger amount of suite. But for photographs, we use a different set altogether. And they pretty much nailed that. So have another look at it. The other thing about a Blender is the learning curve is quite tricky, but they've changed it in the sense that they've gone, we know you don't want everything all the time. We know you have interests. We know that you want to do X, Y, and Z. So this stream you go down, that stream you go down, you learn basics in one stream,
Okay.
basics in another stream, and there are what shall I say? There are basics you learn in every stream, but then you start to go off into your own channel. So they've got their shit together basically,
Okay.
because they're now Europe's answer to the Americans, and Europe basically has turned around and said, you've really got to get your shit together, because the European video companies are starting to push into Asia. Bilibili and Studio. Come on. How's Moving Castle, Porco Rossi, Studio Ghibli is looking to move into 3D. And Europe said, yeah, we can let Pixar just have it, or we could do it. And the only ones ready to do it are you.
Well,
and by the way, Wes is fair and truly up your ass, so you might want to fucking get it together. The other question, sorry, go on.
Draw breath between sentences so someone else can talk.
I do enjoy the workflow of FreeCAD and the way it works.
Yeah,
and,
it's
and
good.
It's designed for
stuff.
engineers, which is the way I think. Whereas Blender,
absolutely.
When I used Blender, it was more for artists.
Fuck
so
Finn. Sorry. Okay.
yeah. And as much of an artist as I am,
And you
I
are.
don't think like an artist. I think like an engineer. And I acknowledge that I have artistic traits, but I think like an engineer. So I'm going to use
That's-
something that accommodates that.
That makes perfect sense. I was basically telling you where we were at this time. As things
Okay.
move and change, I will let you know, because sometimes they turn around and say, we are ignoring the engineers, we are ignoring photographers, we are ignoring X, Y, and Z, and they fix it. And when
Yep.
they do, it's fucking amazing. They were the first ones to put real bokeh in pictures, and it just shat all over everything else.
Look, it's great. Blender is amazing for
But
what you can do with it. It's
it's
so
got to be
good.
for you. That's the thing. You're right. It's got to
Yeah,
be
that's
for
right.
you. And if it's not for you,
So
then forget it. One
yeah,
of the most amazing things I've ever
exactly.
seen was a photograph of a little glade and a little creek. And there's leaves everywhere, and there's a little bridge over the creek. And in the in the in in the chat, they've gone, okay, smart ass, any motherfucker can take a photo of a outside and put it up here, you know, fucking well done, yeah, show the fucking wireframe, you cockhead, and don't be a dick. And next day, up went the wireframe, and in came the apologies, and in came the praise, and in came the, I was the first one to talk to you. I am deathly sorry. I am deeply ashamed of myself. I wish to learn from and with you. I do not know how you did that. Oh my fucking god. Oh my god. And the picture is sensational. It's
Can I offer a topic change?
yeah. But I was going to ask one last question and then go.
Sure.
Um,
Oh, are you leaving?
No. I was just going to back off.
Oh, okay, sure.
Your son. May I ask how
Yes,
old your son is?
he's 17, but he's like
Ah,
almost 18. Like
perfect.
he's
No.
18 in April.
He speaks wisdoms of a 17-year-old.
Yeah, he does.
When you make errors in social and etiquette, he points them out, and I like it. I like it a lot.
Did I make
Um,
an error in social etiquette?
No, social and etiquette.
Oh,
He
did I?
points them out. Yeah. Well, he has pointed them out. So don't worry. He's
Oh,
there
in the
for you.
past, yeah.
In the
Okay,
past
yes.
today. And
Oh,
I'm
look,
happy.
I've had to draw on his advice on social norms and etiquette plenty. Like, he's really good for that as a 17-year-old. Like, he's taught me stuff about social stuff. And yeah,
I've been taught about
so
stuff about 17. A 17-year-old came and said, "Give me $10." I said, "Oh, I don't have $10." He says, "You've got it in your wallet." Because I put my key back in my wallet, and there was $5, $10, and $20. And I went, well, he didn't go for the 20. And I was going for a $2,000 loan. So I thought, if I just give him $10, I won't be late for the loan meeting. Just give him the $10. Anyway,
anyway,
I'm off talking. You're saying?
so thank you, Safa. I appreciate the compliment. I'm feeling better, by the way. I've been sick like for a couple of weeks. I'm
glad.
recovering.
I'm so glad.
So few spoons, but I'm feeling so much better. So that's good. And I read this. Okay, so I mentioned this to Angry like a couple of days ago. I found this short story. You've seen The Thing, right? John Carpenter's The Thing. I found this short story. It's The Thing from the perspective of the thing.
The Thing. Yeah.
It's called The Things, and it's fucking brilliant. And I wanted to know. We don't have to do it now, but I wanted to know if I could read it live on the stream.
I'd like you to.
Absolutely.
Okay. Could I do that now, or do you want to?
No, right now. If you're up for it right now.
Now is great because
I'll-
Dramatic reading
I will
time.
make my dinner while you are
Okay.
reading, and
Sure.
that will be good. That will be fucking
Okay.
awesome.
Well, I will bring it up. Okay.
This is fucking
I'll get
high
comfortable.
culture on the stream. I love
High
it.
culture. I found it on the website Clark's World, a science fiction
Mhm.
and fantasy magazine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's called The Things. I am being Blair. I escaped out the back as the world comes in through the front. I am being Cooper. I am rising from the dead. I am being Childs. I'm guarding the main entrance. The names don't matter. They are placeholders. Nothing more. All biomass is interchangeable. What matters is that these are all that is left of me. The world has burned everything else. I see myself through the window, loping through the storm, wearing Blair. McCready has told me to burn Blair if he comes back alone, but McCready still thinks I am one of him. I am not. I'm being Blair, and I am at the door. I am being Childs, and I let myself in. I take brief communion, tendrils writhing forth from my faces, intertwining. I am Blair Childs, exchanging news of the world. The world has found me out. It has discovered my burrow beneath the tool shed, the half-finished lifeboat cannibalized from the viscera of dead helicopters. The world is busy destroying my means of escape. Then it will come back for me. There is only one option left. I disintegrate. Being Blair, I go to share the plan with Cooper and to feed on the rotting biomass once called Clark. So many changes in so short a time have dangerously depleted my reserves. Being Childs, I have already consumed what was left of Fuchs, and I am replenished for the next phase. I sling the flamethrower onto my back and head outside into the long Antarctic night. I will go into the storm and never come back. I was so much more before the crash. I was an explorer, an ambassador, a missionary. I spread across the cosmos, met countless worlds, took communion. The fit reshaped the unfit, and the whole universe bootstrapped upwards in joyful, infinitesimal increments. I was a soldier at war with entropy itself. I was the very hand by which creation perfects itself. So much wisdom I had, so much experience. Now I cannot remember all the things I knew. I can only remember that I once knew them. I remember the crash. It killed most of this offshoot outright. But a little crawled from the wreckage, a few trillion cells, a soul too weak to keep them in check. Mutinous biomass sloughed off despite my most desperate attempts to hold myself together. Panic-stricken little clots of meat, instinctively growing whatever limbs they could remember and fleeing across the burning ice. By the time I'd regained control of what was left, the fires had died and the cold was closing back in. I barely managed to grow enough antifreeze to keep my cells from bursting before the ice took me. I remember my reawakening too. Dull stirrings of sensation in real time. The first embers of cognition. The slow blooming of warmth of awareness as body and soul embraced after their long sleep. I remember the biped offshoots surrounding me, the strange chittering sounds they made, the odd uniformity of their body plans, how ill adapted they looked, how inefficient their morphology. Even disabled, I could see so many things to fix. So I reached out, I took communion, I tasted the flesh of the world, and the world attacked me. It attacked me. I left that place in ruins. It was on the other side of the mountains, the Norwegian camp, it's called here. And I could never have crossed that distance in a biped skin. Fortunately, there was another shape to choose from, smaller than the biped, but better adapted to the local climate. I hid within it while the rest of me fought off the attack. I fled into the night on 4 legs and let the rising flames cover my escape. I did not stop running until I arrived here. I walked among these new offshoots wearing the skin of a quadruped, and because they had not seen me take any other shape, they did not attack. And when I assimilated them in turn, when my biomass changed and flowed into shapes unfamiliar to local eyes, I took that communion in solitude, having learned that the world does not like what it doesn't know. I am alone in the storm. I am a bottom dweller on the floor of some murky alien sea. The snow blows past in horizontal streaks. Caught against gullies or outcroppings, it spins into blinding little whirlwinds. But I am not nearly far enough, not yet. Looking back, I see the camp crouched brightly in the gloom, a squat, angular jumble of light and shadow, a bumble of warmth in the howling abyss. It plunges into darkness as I watch. I've blown the generator. Now there's no light but for the beacons along the guide ropes, strings of dim blue stars whipping back and forth in the wind, emergency constellations to guide the lost biomass back home. I am not going home. I'm not lost enough. I forge on into the darkness until even the stars disappear. The faint shouts of angry, frightened men carry behind me on the wind. Somewhere behind me, my disconnected biomass regroups into vaster, more powerful shapes for the final confrontation. I could have joined myself, all in one, chosen unity over fragmentation, reabsorbed and taken comfort in the greater whole. Could have added my strength to the coming battle, but I've chosen a different path. I am saving child's reserves for the future. The present holds nothing but annihilation. Best not to think on the past. I've spent so very long in the ice already. I didn't know how long until the world put the clues together, deciphered the notes and tapes from the Norwegian camp, pinpointed the crash site. I was being Palmer then. Unsuspected, I went along for the ride. I even allowed myself the smallest ration of hope. But it wasn't a ship anymore. It wasn't even a derelict. It was a fossil, embedded in the floor of a great pit blown from the glacier. 20 of these skins could have stood atop one another and barely reached the lip of that crater. The time scale settled down on me like the weight of a world. How long for all that ice to accumulate? How many eons had the universe iterated on without me? And in all that time, 1,000,000 years perhaps, there'd been no rescue. I never found myself. I wonder what that means. I wonder if I even exist anymore, anywhere but here. Back at camp, I will erase the trail. I will give them their final battle, their monster to vanquish. Let them win. Let them stop looking. Here in the storm, I will return to the ice. I've barely even been away, after all. Alive for only a few days out of all these endless ages. But I've learned enough in that time. I learnt from the wreck that there will be no repairs. I've learnt from the ice that there will be no rescue. And I learnt from the world that there will be no reconciliation. The only hope of escape now is into the future, to outlast all this hostile, twisted biomass, to let time and the cosmos change the rules. Perhaps the next time I awaken, this will be a different world. It will be eons before I see another sunrise. This is what the world taught me. That adaptation is provocation. Adaptation is incitement to violence. It feels almost obscene, an offense against creation itself to stay stuck in this skin. It's so ill-suited to this environment that it needs to be wrapped in multiple layers of fabric just to stay warm. There are a myriad of ways I could optimize it. Shorter limbs, better insulation, a lower surface to volume ratio. All these shapes I still have within me, and I dare not use any of them to keep out the cold. I dare not adapt. In this place, I can only hide. What kind of world rejects communion? And the simplest, most irreducible insight that it's the simplest, most irreducible insight that biomass can have. The more you can change, the more you can adapt. Adaptation is fitness. Adaptation is survival. It's deeper than intelligence, deeper than tissue. It's cellular. It's axiomatic. And more, it's pleasurable. To take communion is to experience the sheer sensual delight of bettering the cosmos. And yet, even trapped in these maladapted skins, the world doesn't want to change. At first, I thought it might simply be starving, that these icy wastes didn't provide enough energy for routine shapeshifting. Or perhaps this was some kind of laboratory, an anomalous corner of the world pinched off and frozen into these freakish shapes as part of some arcane experiment on monomorphism in extreme environments. After the autopsy, I wondered if the world had simply forgotten how to change. Unable to touch the tissues, the soul could not sculpt them, and time and stress and sheer chronic starvation had erased the memory that it ever could. But there were too many mysteries, too many contradictions. Why these particular shapes, so badly suited to their environment? If the soul was cut off from the flesh, what held the flesh together? And how could these skins be so empty when I moved in? I'm used to finding intelligence everywhere, winding through every part of every offshoot, but there was nothing to grab onto in these mindless biomass of this world. Just conduits, carrying orders and input. I took communion when it was offered. The skins I chose struggled and succumbed. My fibrils infiltrated the wet electricity of organic systems everywhere. I saw through eyes that weren't yet quite mine, commandeered motor nerves to move limbs still built of alien protein. I wore these skins as I've worn countless others, took the controls and left the assimilation of individual cells to follow at its pace. But I could only wear the body. I could find no memories to absorb, no experiences, no comprehension. Survival depended on blending in, and it was not enough to merely look like this world. I had to act like it. And for the first time in living memory, I did not know how. Even more frighteningly, I didn't have to. The skins I assimilated continued to move, all by themselves. They conversed and went about their appointed rounds. I could not understand it. I threaded further into limbs and viscera with each passing moment, alert for signs of the original owner. I could find no networks but mine. Of course, it could have been much worse. I could have lost it all, been reduced to a few cells with nothing but instinct and their own plasticity to guide them. I would have grown back eventually, reattained sentience, taken communion, and regenerated an intellect vast as a world. But I would have been an orphan, amnesiac with no sense of who I was. At least I've been spared that. I emerged from the crash with my identity intact, the templates of 1,000 worlds still resonant in my flesh. I've retained not just the brute desire to survive, but the conviction that survival is meaningful. I can still feel joy, should there be sufficient cause. And yet, how much more there used to be. The wisdom of so many other worlds lost. All that remains are fuzzy abstracts, half memories of theorems and philosophies far too vast to fit in such a impoverished network. I could assimilate all the biomass of this place, rebuild body and soul to 1,000,000 times the capacity of what crashed here. But as long as I am trapped at the bottom of this well, denied communion with my greater self, I will never recover that knowledge. I'm such a pitiful fragment of what I was. Each lost cell takes a little of my intellect with it, and I've grown so very small. Where once I thought, now I merely react. How much of this could have been avoided if I had only salvaged a little more biomass from the wreckage? How many options am I not seeing because my soul simply isn't big enough to contain them? The world spoke to itself in the same way I do when my communications are simple enough to convey without somatic fusion. Even as dog, I could pick up basic signature morphemes. This offshoot was Windows. That one was Bennings. The two who'd left in their flying machine for parts unknown were Cooper and Macready. And I marveled that these bits and pieces stayed isolated from one another, held the same shapes for so long that the labeling of individual aliquots of biomass actually served a purpose. Later, I hid within the bipeds themselves, and whatever else lurked in those haunted skins began to talk to me. It said that bipeds were called guys, or men, or assholes. It said that Macready was sometimes called Mac. It said that this collection of structures was a camp. It said that it was afraid, but maybe that was just me. Empathy's inevitable, of course. One can't mimic the sparks and chemicals that motivate the flesh without also feeling them to some extent. But this was different. These intuitions flickered within me, yet somehow hovered beyond reach. My skins wandered the halls and the cryptic symbols upon every surface. Laundry shed. Welcome to the clubhouse. This side up. Almost made a kind of sense. That circular artifact hanging on the wall was a clock. It measured the passage of time. The world's eyes flitted here and there, and I skimmed piecemeal nomenclature from his mind. But I was only riding a searchlight. I saw what it illuminated, but I could not point it in any direction of my own choosing. I could eavesdrop, but I could only eavesdrop, never interrogate. If only one of those searchlights had paused to dwell on its own evolution, on the trajectory that brought it to this place, how differently things might have ended. If only I had known, but instead it rested on a whole new word, autopsy. Macready and Cooper had found part of me at the Norwegian camp, a rearguard offshoot, burned in the wake of my escape. They brought it back, charred, twisted, frozen mid-transformation, and did not seem to know what it was. I was being Palmer then, and Norris, and Dog. I gathered around with the other biomass and watched as Cooper cut me open and pulled out my insides. I watched as he dislodged something from behind my eyes, an organ of some kind. It was malformed and incomplete, but its essentials were clear enough. It looked like a great wrinkled tumor, like cellular competition gone wild, as though the very process that defined life had somehow turned against it instead. It was obscenely vascularized. It must have consumed oxygen and nutrients far out of proportion to its mass. I could not see how anything like that could even exist, How could it have reached that size without being outcompeted by more efficient morphologies? Nor could I imagine what it did, but then I began to look with new eyes at these offshoots. These biped shapes my own cells had so scrupulously and unthinkingly copied when they reshaped me for this world. Unused to inventory, why catalogue body parts that only turn into other things at the slightest provocation? I really saw, for the first time, that swollen structure atop each body, so much larger than it should be, a bony hemisphere into which a million ganglionic interfaces could fit with room to spare. Each offshoot had one. Each piece of biomass carried one, these huge twisted clots of tissue. I realized something else, too. The eyes, the ears of my dead skin had fed into this thing before Cooper pulled it free. A massive bundle of fibers ran along the skin's longitudinal axis, right up to the middle of the endoskeleton, directly into the dark, sticky cavity where the growth had rested. That misshapen structure had been wired into the whole skin, like some kind of somatocognitive interface, but vastly more massive. So almost if, no, that was how it worked. That was how these empty skins moved of their own volition. Why I'd found no other network to integrate. There it was, not distributed throughout the body, but balled up inside itself, dark and dense and insisted. I had found the ghost in these machines. I felt sick. I shared my flesh with thinking cancer. Sometimes even hiding is not enough. I remember seeing myself splayed across the floor of the kennel, a chimera split along 100 seams, taking communion with a handful of dogs. Crimson tendrils writhed on the floor, half-formed iterations sprouted from my flanks, the shapes of dogs and things not seen before on this world, haphazard morphologies half remembered by parts of a part. I remember childs before I was childs, burning me alive. I remember cowering inside Palmer, terrified that those flames might turn on the rest of me, that this world had somehow learned to shoot on sight. I remember seeing myself stagger through the snow, raw instinct, wearing bennings. Gnarled and undifferentiating clumps clung to his hands like crude parasites, more outside than in, a few surviving fragments of some previous massacre, crippled, mindless, taking what they could and breaking cover. Men swarmed about him in the night, red flares in hand, blue lights at their backs, their faces bichromatic and beautiful. I remember Bennings, awash in flames, howling like an animal beneath the sky. I remember Norris, betrayed by his own perfectly copied, defective heart. Palmer, dying that the rest of me might live. Windows, still human, burned preemptively. The names don't matter, the biomass does. So much of it lost. So much new experience, so much fresh wisdom annihilated by this world of thinking tumors. Why even dig me up? Why carve me from the ice, carry me all that way across the wastes, bring me back to life, only to attack me the moment I awoke? If eradication was the goal, why not just kill me where I lay? Those insisted souls, those tumors hiding away in their bony caverns, folded in on themselves. I knew they couldn't hide forever. This monstrous anatomy only slowed communion, not stopped it. Every moment I grew a little. I could feel myself twining around Palmer's motor wiring, sniffing upstream along a million tiny currents. I could sense my infiltration of that dark thinking mass behind Blair's eyes. Imagination, of course. It's all reflex that far down, unconscious and immune to micromanagement. And yet, a part of me wanted to stop while there was still time. I'm used to incorporating souls, not rooming with them. This compartmentalization was unprecedented. I've assimilated 1,000 worlds stronger than this, but never one so strange. What would happen when I met the spark in the tumor? Who would assimilate who? I was being 3 men now. The world was growing wary, but it hadn't noticed yet. Even the tumors in the skins I'd taken didn't know how close I was. For that, I could only be grateful that creation has rules, that some things don't change no matter what shape you take. It doesn't matter whether a soul spreads throughout the skin or festers in grotesque isolation. It still runs on electricity. The memories of men still took time to gel, to pass through whatever gatekeepers filtered noise from signal, and a judicious burst of static, however indiscriminate, still cleared those acacias before their contents could be stored permanently. Clear enough, at least, to let these tumors simply forget that something else moved their arms and legs on occasion. At first, I only took control when the skins closed their eyes and their searchlights flickered disconcertingly across unreal imagery, patterns that flowed senselessly into one another like hyperactive biomass unable to settle in a single shape. Dreams, one searchlight told me, and a little later, nightmares. During those mysterious periods of dormancy, when the men lay inert and isolated, it was safe to come out. Soon, though, the dreams dried up. All eyes stayed open all the time, fixed on shadows in each other. Offshoots, once dispersed throughout the camp, began to draw together to give up their solitary pursuits in favor of company. At first, I thought they might be finding common ground in a common fear. I even hoped that, finally, they might shake off their mysterious fossilization and take communion. But no, they just stopped trusting anything they couldn't see. They were merely turning against each other. I'm about halfway through, by the way. I can keep going.
I'm really enjoying the turns of phrase in there, particularly working out the humans are tumors. And
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
keep going. It's fine.
yeah,
All good? Okay.
yeah.
My extremities are beginning to numb. My thoughts slow as the distal reaches of my soul succumb to the chill. Oh, a pee break would be okay. Heine wants a pee break.
I can have a pee break. You can keep going. We're not revolving around Heine's pee breaks here.
Fair enough.
The man's allowed to go
Okay.
off and have a pee break, but we can.
Oh, for me, a pee break for me. I actually do need a glass of water because my.
Oh,
not
that's
used to
okay. Yeah, no,
talking to
you've been.
someone.
Yeah, that's okay. You've been a
So,
while. So Heine's actually
so
being considerate, not
for me,
demanding.
okay.
So that's nice.
I'm going to take 1 minute to get a glass of water. I shall be back in a sec.
All right. A break for refreshment and sustenance. Yeah, that's nice. Oh, I think you because I muted you when you were.
Yeah,
You've muted yourself.
I remuted myself. I was
Yeah.
going. He was going refreshment. No,
Yeah.
and refreshment. And I think I might go to some refreshment myself in a minute. But I had my dinner.
Oh, nice. Megalich watching from bed on the iPod. So we're all taking our refreshments and our relaxation. It's all good. It's all good, apart from the bits that aren't. Sorry, a weird meme. I saw someone going like, when someone replied, asked me how everything was going, I said, it's all good in the hood, but it wasn't all good in the hood. There was significant socio-economic imbalance that was causing endemic problems.
We ready?
If you're ready, off we go.
Okay. My extremities are beginning to numb. My thoughts slow as the distal reaches of my soul succumb to the chill. The weight of the flamethrower pulls at its harness, forever tugs me just a little off balance. I have not been child's for very long. Almost half this tissue remains unassimilated. I have an hour, maybe 2, before I have to start melting my grave into the ice. By that time, I need to have conserved enough cells to keep this whole skin from crystallizing. I focus on antifreeze production. It's almost peaceful out here. There's been so much to take in, so little time to process it. Hiding in these skins takes so much concentration. Under all those watchful eyes, I was lucky if communion lasted long enough to exchange memories. Compounding my soul would have been out of the question. Now, though, there's nothing to do but prepare for oblivion. Nothing to occupy my thoughts, but all these lessons left unlearned. Macready's blood test, for example, his thing detector, to expose impostors posing as men, does not work nearly as well as the world thinks, but the fact that it works at all violates the most basic rules of biology. It's the center of the puzzle. It's the answer to all the mysteries. I might have already figured it out if I had just been just a little larger. I might have already I might already know the world. The world wasn't trying so hard to kill me. Macready's test. Either it's impossible or I have been wrong about everything. They did not change shape. They did not take communion. Their fear and mutual mistrust was growing, but they would not join souls. They would only look for the enemy outside themselves. So I gave them something to find. I left false clues in the camp's rudimentary computer. Simple-minded icons and animations, misleading numbers and projections, seasoned with just enough truth to convince the world of their veracity. It didn't matter that the machine was far too simple to perform such calculations, or that there were no data to base them on anyway. Blair was the only biomass likely to know that, and he was already mine. I left false leads, destroyed real ones, and then, alibi in place, I released Blair to run amok. I let him steal into the night and smash the vehicles as they slept, tugging ever so slightly at his reins to ensure that certain vital components were spared. I set him loose in the radio room, watched through his eyes and others as he rampaged and destroyed. I listened as he ranted about the world in danger, the need for containment, the conviction that most of you don't know what's going on around here, but I damn well know that some of you do. He meant every word. I saw it in his searchlight. The best forgeries are the ones who've forgotten they aren't real. When the necessary damage was done, I let Blair fall to Macready's counter-assault. As Norris, I suggested the tool shed as a holding cell. As Palmer, I boarded up the windows, helped with the flimsy fortifications expected to keep me contained. I watched while the world locked me away for your own protection, Blair, and left me to my own devices. When no one was looking, I would change and slip outside, salvage the parts I needed from all that bruised machinery. I would take them back to my burrow beneath the shed and build my escape piece by piece. I volunteered to feed the prisoner and came to myself when the world wasn't watching, laden with supplies enough to keep me going through all those necessary metamorphoses. I went through a third of the camp's food stores in 3 days, and, still trapped by my own preconceptions, marveled at the starvation diet that these offshoots chained to a single skin. Another piece of luck. The world was too preoccupied to worry about kitchen inventory. There's something on the wind, a whisper threading its way above the raging of the storm. I grow my ears, extend cups of near-frozen tissue from the sides of my head, turn like a living antenna in search of the best reception. There, to my left, the abyss grows a little. Silhouettes black, swirling snow against a subtle lessening of the darkness. I hear the sounds of carnage. I hear myself. I do not know what shape I have taken, what sort of anatomy might be emitting those sounds, but I've worn enough skins on enough worlds to know pain when I hear it. The battle is not going well. The battle is going as planned. Now it is time to turn away, to go to sleep. It is time to wait out the ages. I lean into the wind. I move towards the light. This is not the plan, but I think I have an answer now. I think I may have had it even before I sent myself back into exile. It's not an easy thing to admit. Even now I don't fully understand. How long have I been out here, retelling the tale to myself, setting clues in order while my skin dies by low degrees? How long have I been circling this obvious, impossible truth? I move towards the faint crackling of flames, the dull concussion of exploding ordnance, more felt than heard. The void lightens before me. Grey segues into yellow, yellow into orange. One diffuse brightness resolves into many. A lone burning wall miraculously standing. The smoking skeleton of Macready's shack on the hill. A cracked, smouldering hemisphere of reflecting pale yellow in the flickering light. Child's searchlight calls it a radio dome. The whole camp is gone. There's nothing left but flames and rubble. They can't survive without shelter. Not for long. Not in those skins. In destroying me, they've destroyed themselves. Things could have turned out so much differently if I'd never been Norris. Norris was the weak node. Biomass not only ill-adapted, but defective. An offshoot with an off switch. The world knew, had known so long it had never even thought about it anymore. It wasn't until Norris collapsed that heart condition floated to the surface of Cooper's mind where I could see it. It wasn't until Cooper was astride Norris's chest, trying to pound him back to life, that I knew how it would end. And by then it was too late. Norris had stopped being Norris. He'd even stopped being me. I had so many roles to play, so little choice in any of them. The part of being Cooper brought down the paddles on the part that had been Norris. Such a faithful Norris, every cell so scrupulously assimilated, every part of that faulty valve reconstructed unto perfection. I hadn't known. How was I to know? These shapes within me, the worlds and morphologies I've assimilated over the eons, I've only ever used them to adapt before, never to hide. This desperate mimicry was an improvised thing, a last resort in the face of a world that attacked anything unfamiliar. My cells read the signs, and my cells conformed, mindless as prions. So I became Norris, and Norris self-destructed. I remember losing myself after the crash. I know how it feels to degrade. Tissues in revolt, the desperate efforts to reassert control as static from some misfiring organ jams the signal. To be a network seceding from itself, to know that each moment I am less than what I was the moment before, to become nothing, to become legion. Being Cooper, I could see it. I still don't know why the world didn't. Its parts had long since turned against each other by then. Every offshoot suspected every other. Surely they were alert for signs of infection. Surely some of that biomass would have noticed the subtle twitch and ripple of Norris changing below the surface, the last instinctive resort of wild tissues abandoned to their own devices. But I was the only one who saw. Being Childs, I could only stand and watch. Being Cooper, I could only make it worse. If I'd have taken direct control, forced that skin to drop the paddles, I would have given myself away. So I played my parts to the end. I slammed those resurrection paddles down as Norris's chest split open beneath them. I screamed on cue, serrated teeth from 100 stars away snapped shut. I toppled backwards, arms bitten off above the wrist. Men swarmed, agitation bootstrapping to panic. Macready aimed his weapon. Flames leaped across the enclosure. Meat and machinery screamed in the heat. Cooper's tumor winked out beside me. The world would never have let it live anyway, not after such obvious contamination. I let our skin play dead on the floor while overhead, something that had once been me shattered and writhed in and iterated through a myriad of random templates, searching desperately for something fireproof. They have destroyed themselves. They. Such an insane word to apply to a world. Something crawls towards me through the wreckage, a jagged, oozing jigsaw of blackened meat and shattered, half reabsorbed bone. Embers stick to the sides like bright, searing eyes. It doesn't have strength enough to scrape them free. It contains barely half the mass of child's skin, much of it burnt to raw carbon, is already dead. What's left of Childs, almost asleep, thinks, "Motherfucker." But I am being him now. I can carry that tune myself. The Massac sends a pseudopod to me, a final act of communion. I feel my pain. I was Blair. I was Cooper. I was even a scrap of dog that survived that first fiery massacre and holed up in the walls. With no food and no strength to regenerate. Then I gorged on unassimilated flesh, consumed instead of communed, revived, and replenished. I drew together as one. And yet, not quite. I can barely remember. So much was destroyed, so much memory lost. But I think the networks recovered from my different skins stayed just a little out of sync, even reunited in the same soma. I glimpsed a half-corrupted memory of dog erupting from the greater self, ravenous and traumatized and determined to retain its individuality. I remember rage and frustration that this world had corrupted me, that I could barely fit together again. But it didn't matter. I was more Blair and Cooper and dog now. I was a giant with the shapes of worlds to choose from, more than a match for the last lone man who stood against me. No match, though, for the dynamite in his hand. Now I'm little more than pain and fear and charred, stinking flesh. What sentience I have is awash in confusion. I am stray and disconnected thoughts, doubts, and the ghosts of theories. I'm realizations, too late in coming and already forgotten. But I am also Childs, and as the wind eases at last, I remember wondering, who assimilates who? The snow tapers off, and I remember an impossible test that stripped me naked. The tumor inside me remembers it too. I can see it in the last rays of its fading searchlight. Finally, at long last, that beam is pointed inwards, pointed at me. I can barely see what it illuminates. Parasite, monster, disease, thing. How little it knows. It knows even less than I do. I know enough, you motherfucker, you soul-stealing, shit-eating rapist. I don't know what that means. There is violence in those thoughts, and the forcible penetration of flesh, but underneath it all is something else I can't quite understand. I almost ask, but Child's searchlight has finally gone out. Now there is nothing in here but me, nothing outside but fire and ice and darkness. I am being Child's, and the storm is over. In a world that gave meaningless names to interchangeable bits of biomass, one name truly mattered: Macready. Macready was always the one in charge. The very concept seems absurd. In charge? How can this world not see the folly of hierarchies? One bullet in a vital spot and the Norwegian dies forever. One blow to the head and Blair is unconscious. Centralization is vulnerability, and yet the world is not content to build its biomass on such a fragile template. It forces the same model onto its meta systems as well. Macready talks, the others obey. It is a system with a built-in kill spot, and yet somehow Macready stayed in charge. Even after the world discovered the evidence I'd planted, even after it decided that Macready was one of the things, locked him outside to die in the storm, attacked with fire and axes when he fought his way back inside, somehow Macready always had the gun, always had the flamethrower, always had the dynamite, and the willingness to take out the whole damn camp if need be. Clark was the last to try and stop him. Macready shot him through the tumor. Kill spot. But when Norris split into pieces, each scuttling instinctively for its own life, Macready was the one to put them back together. I was so sure of myself when he talked about his test. He tied up all the biomass, tied me up, more times than he knew, and I almost felt a kind of pity as he spoke. He forced Windows to cut us all, to take a little blood from each. He heated up the tip of a metal wire until it glowed, and he spoke of pieces small enough to give themselves away. Pieces that embodied instinct but no intelligence, no self-control. Macready had watched Norris in dissolution, and he had decided men's blood would not react to the application of heat. Mine would break ranks when provoked. He, of course, thought that these offshoots had forgotten they could change. I wondered how the world would react when every piece of biomass in the room was revealed as a shapeshifter, when Macready's small experiment ripped the facade from the greater one and forced these twisted fragments to confront the truth. Would the world awaken from its long amnesia, finally remember that it lived and breathed and changed like everything else? Or was it too far gone? Would Macready simply burn each protesting offshoot in turn as its blood turned traitor? I couldn't believe it when Macready plunged the hot wire into Windows' blood and nothing happened. Some kind of trick, I thought. And then Macready's blood passed the test, and Clark's. Cooper's didn't. The needle went in, and Cooper's blood shivered just a little in its dish. I barely saw it myself. The men didn't react at all. If they even noticed, they must have attributed it to the trembling of Macready's own hand. They thought the test was a crock of shit anyway. Being Child's, I even said as much. Because it was too astonishing, too terrifying to admit that it wasn't. Being Child's, I knew there was hope. Blood is not soul. I may control the motor systems, but assimilation takes time. Cooper's blood was raw enough to pass muster than it would hours before. If Cooper's blood was raw enough to pass muster, then it would be hours before I had anything to fear from this test. I'd be Charles for even less time. I'd been Charles for even less time. But I was also Palmer. I'd been Palmer for days. Every last cell of that biomass had been assimilated. There was nothing of the original left. When Palmer's blood screamed and leapt away from Macready's needle, there was nothing I could do but blend in. I've been wrong about everything. Starvation, experiment, illness, all my speculation, all the theories I invoked to explain this place, top-down constraint, all of it. Underneath, I always knew the ability to change, to assimilate, had to remain the universal constant. No world evolves if its cells don't evolve. No cell evolves if it can't change. It's the nature of life everywhere. Everywhere but here. This world did not forget how to change. It was not manipulated into rejecting change. These were not the stunted offshoots of any greater self, twisted to the needs of some experiment. They were not conserving energy, waiting out some temporary shortage. This is the option my shriveled soul could not encompass until now. Out of all the worlds of my experience, this is the only one whose biomass can't change. It never could. It's the only way Macready's test makes any sense. I say goodbye to Blair, to Cooper, to myself. I reset my morphology to its local defaults. I'm Childs, come back from the storm to finally make the pieces fit. Something moves up ahead, a dark blot shuffling against the flames, some weary animal looking for a place to bed down. It looks up as I approach. Macready. We eye each other and keep our distance. Colonies of cells shift uneasy inside me. I can feel my tissues redefining themselves. You the only one that made it? Not the only one. I have the flamethrower. I have the upper hand. Macready doesn't seem to care. But he does care. He must, because here, tissues and organs are not temporary battlefield alliances. They are permanent, predestined. Macro structures do not emerge when the benefits of cooperation exceed its cost, or dissolve when that balance shifts the other way. Here, each cell has but one immutable function. There's no plasticity, no way to adapt. Every structure is frozen in place. This is not a single great world, but many small ones, not parts of a greater thing. These are things. They are plural. And that means, I think, that they stop. They just wear out over time. Where were you, Childs? I remember words in dead searchlights. Thought I saw Blair. Went out after him. Got lost in the storm. I've worn these bodies, felt them from the inside. Cooper's sore joints, Blair's curved spine, Norris and his bad heart. They are not built to last. No somatic evolution to shape them. No communion to restore the biomass and stave off entropy. They should not even exist. Existing, they should not survive. They try, though. How they try. Everything here is walking dead, and yet it all fights so hard to keep going just a little longer. Each skin fights as desperately as I might, if one was all I could ever have. Macready tries. If you're worried about me, I begin. Macready shakes his head, manages a weary smile. If we've got any surprises for each other, I don't think we're in much shape to do anything about it. But we are. I am. A whole planet of worlds, and not one of them, not one, has a soul. They wander through their lives separate and alone, unable to even communicate except through grunts and tokens, as if the essence of a sunset or a supernova could ever be contained in some string of phonemes. A few linear scratches of black on white. They've never known communion. can aspire to nothing but dissolution. The paradox of their biology is astonishing, yes, but the scale of their loneliness, the futility of their lives, overwhelms me. I was so blind, so quick to blame, but the violence I've suffered at the hands of these things reflects no great evil. They're simply just so used to pain, so blinded by disability, that they literally can't conceive of any other existence. When every nerve is whipped raw, you lash out at even the lightest touch. What should we do, I wonder? I cannot escape into the future not knowing what I know now. How could I leave them like this? Why don't we just wait here a while, Macready suggests. See what happens. I can do so much more than that. It won't be easy. They won't understand. Tortured, incomplete. They're not able to understand. Offered the greater whole, they see the loss of the lesser. Offered communion, they only see extinction. I must be careful. I must use this newfound ability to hide. Other things will come here eventually, and it doesn't matter whether they find the living or the dead. What matters is that they find something like themselves to take back home. So I will keep up appearances. I will work behind the scenes. I will save them from the inside, or their unimaginable loneliness will never end. These poor savage things will never embrace salvation. I will have to force it into them. The end.
Noise.
And that was by Peter Watts, for what it's worth.
Nice. I love it because it immediately made me think, well, what if there were interplanetary humans and they landed on another planet and a life form that was unrecognizable to them attacked them as soon as they saw it? Well, the humans would try and kill that life form that was killing them. And in answer to your question, Rays, yes, AIDS is asleep.
AIDS is asleep. Yes.
And that's a
So
good thing because he did tell us he hadn't slept for 3 days.
I missed Stella. Hi, Stella.
You were very dedicated to keep going when I just put it up so you'd know that it happened, really.
Okay. Well, I'm going to post a link to the story if anyone's interested.
Yeah. No, that was a really fun, different thing. I really quite like that.
Yeah, I enjoyed reading it. It was when I read it, it was on my phone, and it took me like I read it over 3 going to the toilets worth of reading.
Yeah.
So it seemed shorter when I read it, but only because I read it in 3 parts. But it's about 6,800 words. So.
Okay. Well, speaking of reading, or possibly more accurately, listening to someone else read something, I finished an audiobook today called Honeybee. It's an Australian fiction. I think I actually got it for free on Audible. It's very good. It's slightly tough going. The protagonist is very hard done by kid. I won't give too much away in case anyone wants to read it, but it's a kid with just like shit upbringing, single mum who's not only never got money, is always terribly in debt, and they're always on the run. And a kid who they're 14 as the story goes, and they have absolutely no sense of self-worth. And when they get to this phase in their life where people are trying to help them, they never believe someone really wants to help them, and they never believe anything good's going to happen. So they constantly self-sabotage, and it's really well written because it's eminently believable. This kid with no real world experience, but their own life experience tells them nothing good will ever happen. Nothing will ever get better. And so you as the reader or the listener, as I was listening to an audiobook, going like, no, there's people who want to help you. They actually think you're awesome. And the writer is very good at drawing you in. You go, oh no, the kid's gonna do something else stupid. Like, to the point, I was walking home from like the tram to my home, coming home from work, with the little earbuds in, listening to the story, and one particular thing. And this is one of the lesser things. Like, this was not a life endangering thing, because there's a lot of that happens in the book. And I'm walking along, and the kid does a particular thing, and I out loud went, "Oh no!"
Yeah.
And luckily there was no one around for me going, "Oh no!"
Yeah. So I just checked my phone, and do you want to see in like at like the greatest water is wet type headline ever?
The Prime Minister. No, read it. It's going funny.
Oh, it's going blurry. The Prime Minister has warned. Breaking.
Yeah.
The Prime Minister has warned that difficult, in quotes, a difficult Christmas lies ahead for thousands of Australians facing a myriad of hardships.
That is tonight on The Bleeding Obvious.
I know. Talk about covering your bases. Yeah.
I guess on the plus side, that's a change from a previous Prime Minister who would not have conceived of anyone experiencing something that he didn't experience.
True. Yeah. At least he's at least in touch with people can have problems.
Yeah. He's saying, do you realize if you're not having problems, a shit ton of other people are?
Yeah.
And
yeah, I'll give that.
Safa, I bet you could look. I think this book, it's called Honeybee. It is very relatable. I think personally, I was extremely lucky in comparison, but yeah, it was just like when you read this stuff and it was also an archetypal. It compels me. Like, I don't know, my kids are adults; they're not 14, and then they're not that naive. I was going to say stupid. The kid's not stupid. It's just a 14-year-old who doesn't have a lot of experience. But yeah, it got to me to the point I want to sort of talk to my offspring and say, don't ever not ask. Don't ever make assumptions. There was even there was a thing where the cops were involved at one point, and the kids just doing all these outbursts of, oh, it's a bit, and it's like, shut up. Don't volunteer anything to the cops.
Yeah.
Just be really quiet and say, what is this about? And no matter what question they ask you, you go, what's this about?
But kids don't know that.
No, they don't. But I have to admit, not that they were ever in trouble.
No.
But
sorry, I'm being.
Yeah, no, I can see there's something happening there. Not that my kids were ever in trouble, but I did sit them down at one point and have a talk and say, if you're ever in a situation where bad things have happened, and maybe you've actually done something wrong, and the cops are involved, and the cops are questioning you, don't say a goddamn word. I said, when you're under 18, the only thing you say is, I am under 18. I don't want to answer any questions without my father present. And I said, you just don't answer the questions. And I said, but beyond that, if they kind of trick you into talking, you never lie. Do not lie. Just don't talk, but definitely don't lie. Because the fucking world is littered with young, naive people who lied to cops when they actually hadn't done anything serious wrong, but the cops asked them something that made them edgy and they lied, and the cops could tell they're lying. So the cops then decide the kid's guilty and they act like complete assholes about it.
Yeah.
And you will often hear cops, particularly veteran cops, talk about, well, I just know when, they're guilty. Objective analysis and studies of crimes has shown they do not. The police do not know by instinct when someone's done a thing. They can often tell when someone's lying to them because a significant chunk of people are very bad at lying and make it very obvious they're lying. That's nothing special. But again, lying to cops doesn't mean you're guilty of a crime. Or you're not guilty of the crime the cops are trying to find out about. It's just cops make people nervous, and people think, I'll just say, no, I don't know that person. Because obviously something happened there and I don't want anything to do with it. Even though I know them, even though I was with them yesterday, I'm going to say I've never met them because it's too scary. And cops are actually no better than anyone else at working out who fucking committed crime. And they are driven by prejudice and preconceptions, and
often they're just like their training was being a schoolyard bully, and they had no other skills to fall back on, so they joined the police force.
On one of the mobile games I play is based around The Simpsons. It's called Tapped Out. Yes, it's Farmville but with Simpsons. You just keep tapping and doing stuff, but it has all these Simpsons characters in it, and a lot of them, when you tap on them to do particular tasks, they say one of their catchphrases from the show. And one of my favorites is one of the cops, the white cop, Eddie. One of the things he says, he has a few catchphrases, but one of them, when you tap on him, he goes, "This is where my weekend of police training kicks in." And shit. And it's just, holy God.
Oh, dear.
So,
That's too real.
It really is every now and then.
Well, Victoria police only get like 6 weeks or something.
Yeah. It's
something ridiculous, 2 months or something.
The idea that but even it was interesting. I read this
and
article.
None of it is legal training.
Yeah. But like when this shit was first revealed to me, it was like it was a psychological analysis, and someone's talking like to a veteran cop, like a 20-year veteran, and it's just like, I just know when they're doing it. And they basically did some statistical analysis, and it was like, yeah, no, he doesn't. He and it's like he was always so much more, and this might sound contrived, but the statistical analysis showed he was so much more sure of who was guilty when he had decided it was a black person who was guilty.
Funny about that.
He leapt to, they definitely did it far more quickly with non-white people than with white people. It's fucking wild.
Yeah.
But yes, it's a funny old world. So I don't know. AD's gone to sleep. Maybe we should go to sleep too.
I'm yawning. I'm falling asleep.
I started. My problem was I pre-stream like 6 o'clock. Went out with Mrs. Angry and was drinking cocktails, and so I've rocked up at 10 o'clock, and I've already been out and had multiple cocktails, and I'm starting off going, I think I'm really tired. I've survived till 1 a.m.
Well, I've had a busy day. I've been crafting. I've got three craft projects on the go for Christmas as Christmas presents. So one of them I have to finish tomorrow, like by midday. This one I have to finish by the afternoon. And the other one is for you. So I've got a bit more time on that one. That's the book I'm making for you.
The book.
The book, The Magical Tome.
Magical chat.
which is a bit more relaxed. I
Good.
can. It's because I don't know when we're catching up, but I imagine it'll be next week sometime.
Yeah, I'm off work as of now, so
Okay.
hella heaps free time. So
Cool.
we can organize something. Yeah.
Awesome. But yeah, like I imagine, Sunday I'll be busy all day.
Yeah.
But well, tech support stuff.
Sometime next week. Yeah, we'll work it out.
Yeah. Cool.
Alrighty. So everyone who's still around, take care.
Long and prosper, everyone.
Yeah, fabulous.
Navaya
festival.
Melanin. Safe travels, my friends.
It's nice. AD's having his first sleep in 3 days, so that's good. I'll just leave. As much as I'm slightly tempted to, actually leave the stream running just with that there.
Oh, I don't think that would be very
No.
kind.
No, because who knows? But anyway, we'll leave the lad there.
I need to get up early in the morning.
Yeah.
So
good night, everybody. See you
good
another
night.
time.